Hello everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Krishna Besta, Associate Professor of Higher Education at Morgan State University in Maryland. I would like to welcome everyone in our joint webinar series, which is brought to you by the Comparative and International Education Society, Study Abroad and International Student Special Interest Group, Journal of International Student, and the STAR Scholars Network. This is our 6th event in the series. In our series, we aim to explore the issues related to international education, study abroad, and transnational collaboration, and global social mobility among scholars from these three professional communities in the current context of political turmoil and uncertainty. Scholars interested in student mobility, international research, and collaboration across the national borders, cultural borders are invited to join this conversation. This afternoon, we are so fortunate to have a panel of editors from different professional peer-reviewed journals, and they are also expert in their fields. The main objective of this afternoon session is to share the perspective of the editors of the academic journals related to their experiences of working with authors, tips and suggestions, and the current and future trends in the field. And our invited editors this afternoon will keep you informed their expectation from the authors. For example, how should you respond to the reviewers' feedback? Is there a particular structure to write a paper for their journals? Is it worth revising and resubmitting when a paper is not accepted for publication? And in this session, we ask journal editors from a range of backgrounds for their tips on getting published. I would also like to take a moment to recognize 198 members who registered for this session, and those who are listening us from the University of Toronto, Western University, Canada, and many other parts of the United States and the beyond. So I welcome everyone. This afternoon, we have invited the editors from different journals, and in a minute, I will introduce them. And now we are planning to use 4 general questions to structure our 60-minute conversation around the research publication, followed by Q&As. As I ask questions to our panelists, please chime in to advance conversation, taking your turn, focusing on the research topics. And for audience who are listening us, please use the chat room, and we have Janet to moderate the questions, or you can also send us your question via email. And on a technical note, before we start, I would like to ask everyone to click on the microphone button and mute themselves while not speaking, but remembering to unmute yourself before starting to speak. You can also turn off your video if a pet or child makes you want to disappear. If you lose the connection, please go back to your email and look the session link. If nothing works, you can join us using the dial-in numbers that we provided via emails. To begin the sessions, before we begin this session, I'd like to ask our guest panelists to introduce themselves. Please include your name, affiliation, and area of interest, or the journal editorship. So panelists, now please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hello, this is Bashu Sharma.
Welcome, Dr. Sharma. And Dr. Sharma is joining from University of New Brunswick. He's the editor of the International Journal of Comparative Business. Next.
Hello, my name is Uttam, Gaulee, if I may. I work at Morgan State University in the Community College Leadership Program here in the School of Education and Urban Studies. And I am the editor of the Journal of Underrepresented and Minority Progress.
My name is Amany, Saleh, and I am professor at the Center for Excellence in Education at Arkansas State University and the editor of the Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies in Education.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh.
Hi, I'm Dr. Chris Glass. I am the senior editor for the Journal of International Students and an associate editor for higher education, politics, and economics.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. Thank you. And a few of our editors were not able to present, be here this afternoon, but we have information about their journals and we'll be sharing with you. Now, to begin with these sessions, I'd like to start with the first question. The first question is, please briefly share the history of the journal, as well as the aims and scope of the journals that you are affiliated with.
I will start. This is Bashu Sharma, editor of Journal of Comparative International Management. This journal I started about 20 years ago, and it is devoted to publishing high-quality articles in the field of comparative international management for advancing understanding and organizations of management practices around the world through theoretical and empirical research. And generally, there is very little research published in journals published in North America about developing countries and management practices in those countries. So my emphasis is on getting papers, good research related to developing countries' management practices.
I'm Amany Saleh. I'm the editor of the Journal of International Student. Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies in Education, and the journal started in the fall of 2012. It published biannually, twice a year. It focused on interdisciplinary research in education. It has a little bit focus on globalization and internalization of education. That's about it.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh.
To talk about Journal of Underrepresented and Minority Progress, we call it JUMP Jump for short. It's probably one of the youngest journal in the field. We started it in 2017. So we are just, beginning actually, but we have had a very good response in academia, and we are probably the fastest growing journal also in the STAR Scholars Network. We feature narratives, theoretical and empirically based research articles, reflections, and book reviews relevant to the progress of minority and underrepresented populations in and across social and national contexts.
Thank you, Dr. Gaulee. And Dr. Glass and I have been in two different journals, so I'll share some of these topics that we have covered, or the aims and scope of Journal of International Student. It is also academic peer-reviewed journal started back in 2010. And we have been publishing empirical, theoretical narrative pieces related to student faculty, international cross-cultural experience, study abroad, and issues related to internationalization of higher education. And we look into a variety of topics related to these student faculty international cross-cultural experience in the Journal of International Students. Dr. Glass, you would like to add higher education, politics, and education?
Yes. So Higher Education, Politics, and Economics is a journal that's been published since 2012. It's focused very much on the politics of higher education as opposed to policy. So it looks at higher education and universities as political institutions that have student, faculty, and governmental politics. We try to explore current issues related to politics related to higher education worldwide. So not just in the United States, especially as it related to some social justice issues, included social mobility, food insecurity, homelessness, immigration policy, campus free speech, financial aid, and income inequality and stratification.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. Dr. Rosalind Ravi is the editor-in-chief of the Journal of International and Comparative Higher Education. And this journal is the flagship journal of higher ed CIES SIG, which is based now within the STAR network. And then Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies in a multidisciplinary perspective in higher education is the based at Stony Brook University, and Dr. Sharma, Sam Sharma is the editor-in-chief of that journal. All of our journals are under open journals in education OJED system. So ojed.org is our common platform. So any one of you who are listening us this afternoon can browse these journals from the same platform, except the Journal of Comparative and International Management, which is which is hosted by the Library of the University of New Brunswick. So now we move to the next question. The next question for our audio guest speaker is, what are the most common topics published in your journal within the last 3 to 5 years? The second part of the question, did you notice any interesting change in the topics that fall within the aims and scope of your journals?
Can I go first?
Sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay, JUMP, the Journal of Underrepresented and Minority Progress, encourages the submission of manuscript by scholars and practitioners in any relevant academic field, including sociology, psychology, higher education, philosophy, and cultural studies. We haven't been old enough to notice any significant change in the field, but the journal is international in scope, and it includes work by scholars in a wide range of academic fields, including psychology, religion, sociology, business, and social work. But the focus is, again, on the underrepresented and minority population. So our audience includes scholars and researchers of social sciences, focusing their work on the issues such as ethnicity and race, caste and class, religion and spirituality, gender, sexual orientation, power and privilege, wealth and income, health and well-being, beliefs and value systems, and intersections of these issues.
Thank you.
Can I go? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, please go ahead. Yeah.
The Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies, the focus is on the interdisciplinarity of the field in education. So a majority of the submissions we accept and publish have to deal with some kind of interdisciplinary approach to education. There is occasions when we think that some articles are worthy of publication, even though it may not fit the focus. But mostly we remained dedicated to keeping the focus to the interdisciplinary nature of the journal.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh.
Okay. The Journal of Comparative International Management basically focuses on any aspect of business. It could be finance, it could be marketing, it could be organizations, it could be management information system. Only two things are required. Either it has to be international or it has to be comparative. And over the years, we have published papers related to economies and management practices of 30 countries around the world. And that focus is still there. However, as the economy changes, as the issues also change, and then accordingly, this research interest also shifts. Like, for example, in the last 5-8 years, after the Great Recession of 2008, people have started to talk about too big to fail, problems of ethics in business, and the technological changes. So, along with changes in the general economic, political environment, the focus of the journal also changes because the research interest also changes accordingly.
Mm-hmm.
Thank
you. Thank you very much. And in the Journal of International Students since 2010, we have published a variety of topics, articles, and earlier this afternoon, I was browsing some of the keywords, and I came across the common themes and topics that we have covered in the last 10 years, where international student experience itself, there were 233 entries, student mobility, 23 entries, cross-cultural, 33, Chinese students, 32, immigration, 17 entries, international student retention, 45, internationalization, 38 entries, and study abroad, 60 entries or articles were published so far. And looking into these topics, some of the areas that now we are interested are the post-study experience, the employability of international student, some of the regional coverage, the for instance, Asia-focused articles, or the articles related to virtual exchange program and their impacts, particularly for the faculty and the students who have more transnational, international backgrounds and their experience at the university and colleges, and also international student experience or faculty experience in K-12 schools, This is also another growing area where student and faculty have been interested. Then also we are interested in the country-specific cases or replicated studies that have predominantly have done in US, Canada, Australia. Now we want to see the similar studies in other countries, maybe in China, now being another giant of, hosting international students, and also articles written in bilingual, lingual publications. In the Journal of International, it's pleased to announce that we are publishing in special issues of the articles written in Chinese about international students in China. So we have recruited professors, to editors who are the lead editors of the special issues called International Student in China in Chinese language. And Dr. Glass, would you like to add something that I missed in the journal or the Journal of Higher Education, Politics, and Economics?
That was a great summary for the Journal of International Students. I would add for the Higher Education, Politics, and Economics Journal, we've published extensively around issues related to free speech, financial aid policy, diversity-related policy, in particular social justice issues in education. We're looking for additional pieces, especially as it relates to the politics of immigration on campus, and that would also include deferred action of childhood arrival, or DACA policy in the United States, or other types of immigration policy, which would include refugees and other parts of the world, and also pieces that are related to what Sarah Goldrick-Rab refers to as real college, or real college students, often students who the politics around food insecurity and homelessness and policies related to that, as well as the role of universities in and stratification, but also as potential agents of social mobility as well. And so some of those areas related to income inequality, food insecurity, and social mobility are areas of interest for our journal.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. And the audience who are listening us this afternoon, please feel free to email us or send your question in the chat room. Now we are gearing toward more the questions related to the publication and some of the challenge the author experience. Now our next question is, what are the most common challenges the author experience when submitting or going through the publication process to your journals?
I may.
Sure.
I will just share one.
Mm-hmm.
We are receiving very, very good articles with good research. We're still struggling with one big item of APA style writing and styling.
Mm-hmm.
This has been a big challenge, most common one, I would say. And we are also transitioning to a new system, which is great, but there have been some hiccups in the system navigation for our authors. But I know it's gonna go away with the great help of Dr. Glass in the backstage, maintaining this system, OJED, which I really, really love. And I wanted to take this moment to thank Dr. Glass for being the person who you are and helping all the Star Scholars Network journals. Thank you.
Great. Dr. Glass, would like to add something?
Yeah, I mean, I would say the thing I think we look for in the publication process, I would say, is I think all of our journals get many manuscripts. And so the very first thing that I look for as an editor is a manuscript that really has a fresh core central idea. And so there's a balance between trying to find something that fits the journal's aims and scope, but also recognizes that the journal is looking for fresh perspectives as well. And so I know particularly when I see a manuscript that has a different methodology than we publish extensively on, I'm interested in that manuscript. If that manuscript focuses on from a perspective or a place in the world that we haven't had represented, I'm very interested in that manuscript. And then if the manuscript has a well-written abstract and title that really captures the imagination and would capture the imagination of our readers, the thing I'm eventually thinking about as an editor is this going to be interesting to our thousands of readers when we publish this? When we publish this next issue, is this idea, this piece of research going to be something that they would want to click on when we do that? In other words, something they would want to click on and read. It would inform their research and practice, and it could inform research in the field. And so when I'm going through articles, one of the things I find is that there's titles that sometimes are fairly stale, and other titles capture the imagination and communicate the unique contribution that author is hoping to make to the field. And they tend to be quite attractive in terms of wanting to send those out for review, and then working with those authors to make sure that those are published. There may be times even when the authors might need work. I would say all of our journals are quite supportive. We're not a traditional type of cutthroat academic publishing. We're very supportive, especially for authors from any parts of the world and different perspectives, to work with them to make sure that that idea is expressed and they can be recognized for their excellent work.
Thank you, Dr. Glass. Dr. Sharma, would you like to add any suggestions?
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Dr. Sharma, you are mute. Please unmute. Looks like Dr. Sharma is having technical issues. I will take Dr. Saleh first.
Yeah, okay, sure. Do you hear me?
Oh, yes, I can hear you now. Good.
Yeah, okay. Dr. Saleh, you want to go first?
Okay, that's,
no?
I think,
please.
Okay, most of the problems some authors have is they might have good ideas and good research, but the writing style is a problem. To a large degree, we try to help. We have some editors who can help with the writing, but sometimes I send the article back to the authors to revise it a little, or try to work with it to make ideas clearer. Adherence to the guidelines of the journal. Many authors do not follow the guidelines for the journal, so it becomes harder. So that's mainly the issues that we see.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh. Dr. Sharma, now your turn.
Yeah, I'll divide that into three categories. Sometimes we receive papers which are not ready for publication. And then from the desk itself, we will just return them and then work on it more and then resubmit. And another category is the research is very good, but writing is very bad. And then, as you know, in Canada, we have Quebec, which is bilingual, and generally French is the language there. There are very good universities, and we get papers from there, but language becomes an issue. And then if the research is really good, then we have a very good copy editor, so we work on it and publish. And then the third category is the paper goes through review process, and then comments are sent, and then the authors are asked to revise and resubmit. And then authors sometimes resubmit, but without addressing the issues raised by the reviewers. So that becomes sometimes a problem. So we always write a sentence in the covering letter to the author saying that please respond on a point-by-point basis to the concerns raised by the reviewers. And that helps quite a bit.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. And I know we have more than 3 dozen of members in the audience listening us. And if you are interested in serving in any of our journals as a copy editors or consulting editors, please let us know. And since as Dr. Glass said earlier, we really want to help every single authors that submit in our journals and have try our best to provide mentor mentee. So in those cases, if you are interested, please email all of us or one of us in the journal that you are interested in. And also in the chat room, we received a couple of questions regarding the writing expectation, the word limit. In majority of our journals, we use APA manual, American Psychological Association publication guidelines, except in the Journal of Comparative and International Higher Education, which is a Chicago manual. And then regarding the length, we understand and respect that all articles or the manuscript may not have the same number of words depending on qualitative or quantitative. In the Journal of International Students, we have set the word limit of 7,500 words for empirical research-based articles. But we also welcome short reflection pieces as short as 1,500 words. So word length is not really big issues. However, we do not consider thesis length or 30 plus pages manuscript. So although the length is something you can negotiate with the journal editors, however, we are really looking forward to a solid articles on the topic of your interest. In the Journal of International Student, many of you ask me the questions about when my next issue is coming out, or how long should we wait to get published. Over the past several years, we started receiving more than 350 manuscripts, and that keeps us quite busy. So we have a pretty long waiting period, at least about 6 months, even after being accepted to be published digitally or online, in print. However, we are trying our best to publish online first before the hard copies. So please bear with us the publication, the time frame for publication. So now this is the areas where you can definitely ask questions. So in our next question, I'm asking our guest their opinions or some of these comments. The question is, what are the opportunities available in your journal for graduate students? That includes master or doctoral or postdoc students who are interested in reviewing manuscript or collaborating with authors or interning in the editorial office?
I have to say I welcome any graduate students who can work in any capacity, whether it's on an editorial board, as reviewers, as copy editors, because I am receiving more articles now than I used to in the past, and I'm having a hard time keeping on track and publishing in a timely manner as I would like to, all the articles that I'm getting.
Thank you.
And in my case, Journal of Comparative International Management, we welcome interest in reviewing the papers. However, for internship and other matters, because it is a very small scale operation, so that is not available.
Okay. Thanks.
Yes, if I may go ahead.
For higher education, politics, and economics, we definitely welcome. We actually started as a graduate student journal, and so that's our history and our story. We eventually, like all the journals I want to highlight, are all indexed in major databases as well. It's one of the reasons we receive such high quality submissions. And I encourage you, if you are hesitant, I think all the editors here are supportive and would hope to mentor you through the process. You don't have to start off doing the highest role. You can start off as a reviewer or a copy editor as a way to get involved. And I encourage you to consider that. So Dr. Gaulee?
Yes, I would say there are 3 types of opportunities. First, definitely is we welcome reviewers from the pool of graduate students, and those who can really work with us can be promoted to the editorial board, depending on your performance. And also, another unique opportunity is you are welcome to review some of the current books. I think this applies across the journals in the STAR network. We have a stack of relevant books in different areas. And maybe Dr. Bista can share that page. If you visit STAR Scholars Network, you will see a resource page where you will see different titles of books. So if you are interested in reviewing that book, you will get access to the book, the whole entire book, and we will publish your review if you do a good job on that. So we invite you to be the book reviewers, definitely, and journal article reviewers, as well as look forward to coming to the editorial board.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gaulee. And talking about that book reviews, in our platform, we have about 25 books, new titles published in 2018 and 2019, waiting for the review. And if you are interested, again, this is the, this information is for our audience members. We are very pleased to share the copies with you, so you can write the book reviews. Book reviews are, the small pieces of writing, somewhere from 750 to 1200 words, and we are pleased to put them in some of our journals. Then in most of the journals in our networks have platform for these doctoral student, master students, even for internship or for publication. And let me take you questions from the panel, from our audience. The question is for Dr. Gaulee and Dr. Glass. The question is here: do you feel like community college or juvenile justice, community college and prisons, and the topics related to your journals, or are you willing to consider these topics?
I think that topic looks excellent for JUMP. I'll let Dr. Gaulee speak to that, but it seems to be something that is very much in line with the social justice focus of the, I would agree with his assessment, a very fast growing publication. Dr. Gaulee, would you agree?
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Glass, for that pitch. I somehow had lost thought on that. But yeah, again, if it is about the marginalized communities, particularly the progress made by those communities to inspire and help and be the voice of that community, we often like to be intentional in selecting the articles that we want to publish, because we want to advance the knowledge in the marginalized communities advancement. So yeah, definitely do submit at the JUMP website.
Great, thank you. And audience member, participant, please feel free to type your questions. We are very, enlightened to take your questions. I will take the next question here. This is for Dr. Saleh. What are the guidelines for your journals? And this question is coming from Mohammed.
Yeah, the guidelines can be found on the website, and the website is isejournal.org. So please visit the journal and look at the guidelines, but they're pretty much, we follow APA style, and word count for an article is 4,000 to 8,000, that range. We're not so rigid. If it is a good article and it's a little bit longer or a little bit shorter, we usually accept it.
And as an assistant editor of the Journal of Interdisciplinary Studies in Education, I'm also pleased to share with you that we are also introducing special issues, and Dr. Lang, Professor Lang has been the, he has been appointed as a special issue editor, and feel free to send the manuscript directly to him or through our ojed.or/thejournals, or you can email to Dr. Saleh, either way fine, or me. And we are pleased to consider your manuscript.
The focus of the special edition or special issue is beyond the interdisciplinary. So that kind of like, what about the pedagogy, the research, what's beyond the interdisciplinary? So that, please to keep that in mind.
Thank you, Dr. Saleh. Yes, that's very important information. Okay, any other questions or the additional information that you would like to share with our audience this afternoon? Anything that we missed?
There's a few question and answers. Maybe I'll speak to a few. I know Prashenti, it was wonderful to hear from you. And I know you asked questions about a title and abstract in crafting those. I think they're very important. There's certainly no substitution to having important of the quality of the article is eventually what will matter the most. But on the front end and the back end, a title and an abstract are really important. They capture the imagination of the reader, as I mentioned before. But the other thing I would say is with the abstract, it's helpful, especially realize that that's often the very first thing a reviewer reads. When we invite a reviewer to read your manuscript, they often look at your title and they look at your abstract. So in that, you want to have some key information. You want to make sure you are clear about your methodology, you're clear about your participants, your sample size, and you want to make sure to be specific enough and concrete enough with your findings that really help people see that your study is very significant. And so rather than simply say, we'll discuss the findings or the findings are discussed with implications, really put that in there. Make sure that the reviewers and the editors see that you believe that your study is significant and that it's very important that this research is published. And so that's an important part to include in the abstract.
Thank you. And then side note, looks like some of the questions in the Q&A's box did not come through me. And as a panelist, if you see the questions there unanswered, please feel free to read the question and redirect to the person whom it is asked. Now,
Go ahead.
Now in the next few minutes, I'd like to talk to the bigger issues that if everyone as a student, faculty, or the editor receive, which is about, publication venues. In our discipline, only in education, there are more than 6,000 journals, and sometimes for many of us who are in early career in the publications or grad students, you may be confused how to choose or what are the information to look in, and also there are several predatory journals and the conferences. And some professional organization like the Cabell's Cabell's Directory of Journals has made a list of, they have categorized the white list and the black list journals. And this is something, we recommend you to make sure you check the topic, journal coverage, or the aims and scope, and then information whether it is peer reviewed, how far, how long it takes, and what are the appropriate readership, length of time of submission, publication, and any fees for the publication. And for my panelists, I would like to ask their opinions or their experience of receiving invitation from these predatory journals, or some of the tips how we can avoid predatory journals.
I'll briefly share, and one of the ways I think you can avoid that is to look at where the journal is indexed, as Dr. Bista mentioned. It's very important that it has a reputation that's often tied to a university, or it's tied to a reputable publisher, and that it's indexed in a reputable academic database. And what I mean by that is there is ERIC, which is a database of education articles. There is ProQuest, there is Scopus, there is Cabell's, and usually the high quality journals will basically tell you where they're indexed. If they're low quality journals, they won't mention anything about indexing. And it's important that you indexers are basically a seal of approval that this journal follows ethical standards. The only way you can be indexed is to have and to follow rigorous ethical standards, because you will lose your index if you do not follow high ethical standards of your journal. So I encourage you to look at the websites.
Yeah. And then thanks, Dr. Glass. And I also echo in the same line that many of these predatory journals, they brag about high quality of their journals, and which can be false claim about the journal metrics and where it is or they are indexes. So this is also, then you need an extra eye to look into that. Usually when I started the publishing articles, I used to run by my mentors. I always ask them where they publish from and what conferences they go. That's something I used in early days. So I'd like to hear additional information if you have any, Dr. Saleh and Dr. Sharma.
Our university offer a service that I think is really good. The librarians will tell you, they will do some tracking of the journal for our faculty and students. So if you get a journal and you can find decent information about it, the librarians will get you some information about the journal. So they provide like half a page kind of history of the journal and with the scope and how long they've been in the field and so forth. So you might check with your librarian if you cannot. There used to be that list of predatory journals, but that list is not active anymore. The website is not active.
All right.
Yeah.
I can share a few like precautions. I mean, one way is to see if they're asking for money, because money is a big driver. Even though not all journals who ask for money are predatory, technically they may not be, but the drive behind being predatory is making money out of this business. So if they're asking for money and also they're giving you some false promises like fast turnaround, like all the reviews are done in a week and you will get the result, and that probably should make you careful. So when you're careful, definitely talk to your peers, see if your senior colleagues have published in that journal. So there are definitely different ways. Again, searching the information about that journal on databases and even the simple Google search can also give you some information. So we are very proud at Star Scholars Network that all of our journals are actually free to authors. There is no submission and publication fee. Again, not all journals that charge you are predatory, but those who give you false promises, if it is too good to believe, it may be in the category.
Thank you, Dr. Gaulee.
Okay, yeah.
Dr. Sharma, do you have a different experience or something similar in the business?
In business, what we have this AACSB accreditation. So they are pretty straightforward about the standard of the journals. So we have several venues to determine what quality a particular journal has. The top one is Financial Times list. There are 50 journals. They are A-star journals. And also, as you know, in business, it is interdisciplinary field. So you have finance, economics, marketing, management science, and all that. So that's quite broad. And then we also have Australian Dean's Business Journal list. So they categorize their rank. So in our school, we use that Financial Post 50 journals and then that Australian Dean's ranking. And if we have a journal where our faculty member has published, but it is not ranked in these places, then we have a committee, publication committee, which looks at the journal and then determines whether that will be acceptable or not acceptable. So, and in that committee, we also have 2 librarians as resource people. So they have a fairly good idea about these indexing and those kind of services. So they help us a great deal in determining the quality.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Sharma. That's very helpful. And as Dr. Saleh said earlier, probably library is the best resort in our education discipline. And also in education, as Dr. Glass mentioned earlier, looking into ERIC, a database, because ERIC has also listed A to G journals, which are good in a white list. And also the ProQuest databases has also made a list of acceptable journals in our field. They can go by discipline or the area of, or the area. So these are some of the areas to take a look. Again, thank you very much for your information. So we have another few minutes left. We truly respect the time of our panelists. In the last few minutes, if you want to add any additional comments, suggestions to our listeners, or the students or colleagues, please feel free to add anything. And then in the last few minutes, I'd like Dr. Gaulee to take us to next 2 slides, and we'll share more about upcoming information.
Let me answer 2 questions I see in the question and answer box, if I could. There was one question as it relates to the journals accept qualitative studies. I think I can speak for all the editors. The answer is a resounding yes for all of us. Qualitative studies are much of what we publish, and I encourage you, if you're doing that kind of research, to publish in any of the journals. And then a second question I see here that I want to make sure we address, someone was asking about, do you look at an impact factor when selecting a journal for publication? I think I'll share my perspective, but other editors can of course share theirs. My thought is there's many ways to measure the quality of a journal. The impact factor is one way to measure, but other ways that you can also measure that I think are equally valid are how selective is the journal. Also, how often is the journal cited? That's actually one of the things that I look at. In other words, you can go to Google Scholar and metrics and see that what's the average citation. And so if other people are citing the journal, it shows that people respect the journal as a source. That always, so impact factor is certainly one thing to look at, but what's called the H5 factor is another, and that refers to how often the journal's articles are cited. It's another way to look at quality in addition to indexing.
That's awesome. And please, panelists, take a look in your Q&A box, since I was not able to see any questions.
One of the questions is about plagiarism. And we run the articles through a computer, plagiarism check. And if we find the articles not authentic, we tend to not to accept it. So I would suggest for authors, if you're a graduate student at the university, your university have that software for you to check something like Turnitin, or so you can run your article or your submission by it. Sometimes we just do it in subconsciously, we just copy some sentences or whatever without realizing it. So I would recommend, I do that for my own writing. I'll just run it through the check and maybe rephrase some of the sentences that I have. So I would recommend that people do that before they submit an article.
Thank you. Very helpful information. Any other thing that we would like to address? Dr. Gaulee, could you take us to the next 2 slides?
Yes, one thing I wanted to mention before going to the next slide was we have many resources for budding writers in STAR Scholars Network, as well as on the JUMP website also, which I will be very happy to share. And don't forget to let us know if you wish to be the reviewer for our journals. Yeah, the mentoring editors are available, so utilize that opportunity. And here we go to the next slide, Dr. Bista.
Thank you very much. And this is the place to acknowledge our colleagues, and then for this technical support, we want to thank to Ottawa University, and for the entire sponsorship of our new platform, OJED. We want to thank Old Dominion University and the Higher Education Community College Department. And for the printing and running, we want to thanks to AIRC. OJED is a common platform for our six journals that are in our network. In the next slides, we want to share the upcoming event related to conferences. The conferences are taking place in California, San Francisco, CIES, and I would like to see all of you in our business meeting. We have scheduled this one for April 16th at 1:30. and also from the Star Scholars Network, we have upcoming conferences in Bangladesh, Dhaka, from May 27 to 29th. And while saying that, I also want to recognize our special guest editor of the Journal of International Student, Dr. May Tang. She's also listening us. Currently, she's a visiting scholar at Morgan State University. And then many colleagues, those whom we have worked and served on the different editorial board of the journals, and many of you are listening, and we really appreciate all of you. In our final slide, we have also listed few book projects that we have done as a part of Star Scholars Network. The Star Scholar Network has provided, platform, joint platform for many colleagues like you for the journals and the book project. These are some of the projects we have published in the past, and we have few book project coming up. It's a series. That series is called Study Abroad and International Student Book Series, and we have partnered with the Routledge, Taylor and Francis. So please feel free to email us if you have any questions, concern. And looks like at this moment we don't have any questions. And in the last minute, if you have any comments, suggestions, please go ahead and share.
Well, Dr. Bista, thank you very much. This is a very innovative initiative, and I appreciate very much bringing me into this. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. I truly appreciate.
And thank you, Dr. Bista, for that. And I would share, I think all the editors, we would welcome you visiting our website and contacting us. If you have some specific questions for us, it's very common that prospective authors might reach out and ask a question. I know sometimes there were some questions on the Q&A about the suitability for some articles that you're considering and whether or not they would be a good fit. You can reach out to us. Our contact information is on our websites, and please do so. And thank you, Dr. Bista, and all the support from Ottawa University in sponsoring this wonderful webinar.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Likewise, yes, I just wanted to say thank you as well, Dr. Bista, for hosting this, and Janet, thank you for facilitating. And our website is very easy to remember, ojed.org.
Right, and a copy of recorded video will be available online, and you will be also receiving in the email. And feel free to say